Wait, don't jump ahead just yet, eyes. You're watching part 2. And trust us, this is where things get really interesting. But if you haven't seen part 1, head over to our channel first because you're missing a big piece of the story. Also, if you're enjoying the content, take 1 second to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you stay updated every time we upload. Alright, no more waiting. Let's dive straight into part 2. Deos says. He looks at Alex. Is it you who set up this terrible plot? What are you talking about? Alex asks in genuine surprise. Aren't you the one who wants to give me a girl, so I'll leave an heir? Deos clarifies. Just what kind of person do you think I am? Alex asks, smiling slightly. I'm Alex, the greatest strategist of the demon realm. I wouldn't allow such a bad plan to pass. The girl runs up to the cart and grabs the edge. Sir Hero, mountain bandits are chasing me. Please help. Tears streaming down her face. I'm not a hero. I'm a companion of one. Deos answers, not even looking at her. She sighs in disappointment. Then, with renewed energy, begs the hero's companion anyway. We're a high-level party that hunts dragons. The hero says, we don't do minor quests like mountain bandits. The girl lets out a very specific word under her breath. Lowers her eyes. Why are you so picky? Deos becomes enraged instantly. You just swore. He shouts, pointing directly at her face. She trembles. What the F? No, Sir Hero's companion, please help this weak young maiden. Deos points at where she should go. At that exact moment, a large sharp axe embeds itself into the side of the cart. The hero stares at it. Hey kids, don't play around. He tells the bandits. Look at his pale face. The bald, gray-bearded bandit leader shouts. Get out of here with your crippled cart if you don't want to die. What kind of clothes are those? Another criminal asks. Did you come from the future? A sad expression appears on the hero's face. They damaged my precious cart. He says very quietly, burned for eternity. It sounds exactly like a spell. Because it is. The bandits who almost reach the girl are surrounded instantly by purple glow. One of them screams from unbearable pain. Begs desperately for someone to put out the fire consuming him. It cannot be extinguished. Deos says in an ominous voice. The bandits stare at him in horror. No matter who you are, no matter what magic you use, it will never stop burning. Nor will you ever die. Simply burning away for eternity, until the end of this world. He raises his fingers, smoking with purple haze, to his face. Who's next? Who else is going to join him? Burning for eternity. Apologizing. Begging for forgiveness. Nobody damages the cart. Nobody. One of the bandits screams that they've met the devil himself. Another yells that they need to run straight to hell. The girl watches her pursuers scatter in absolute terror. She smiles joyfully. That's it. I saved you. Deos says. Now get lost somewhere. The girl looks at the hero with warm glowing eyes. Asks him to wait just a moment. Then reports the temple she serves has been captured by mountain bandits. She grabs the edge of the cart, sobbing, pleading. All the priestesses have been enslaved. The holy relic was lost. Please drive away the bandits and save the temple. Low-level quests don't interest me. The hero answers, picking his nose. Let's go, Alex. He orders his servant without removing his finger from his nose. Alex says he understands. Wait. The girl screams. Deos looks sideways at her. She smiles charmingly. You mentioned dragons earlier, right? Do you happen to be in the company of a hero dressed with a piece of cloth? The temple currently occupied by the bandits is the Peak of the Dragons. The true gold dragon temple. If you help drive away the bandits, we'll reward you with the true gold dragon's helmet. Deos picks his nose thoughtfully. Gold dragon's helmet. His finger stops moving. Scene shift mountain path. What are you doing? Why are you just standing still? Alex, breathing heavily, is climbing rocks up a steep mountain. He calls out to his master. Deos stands on a large stone above him, completely unbothered. The servant slowly approaches while the hero climbs with ridiculous ease. Why can't we just fly where we need to go? Alex asks. Are you crazy? Deos asks back. How can we do that? I'm not a demon king. Then could you at least carry me on your back? Alex begs. Mister, I cannot go on. My legs are about to explode. They're climbing a steep staircase up a very high mountain. The demon king cannot compromise his dignity. Deos replies. But you said you're no longer the demon king. This is also very suspicious. Alex adds, face drenched in sweat. He looks up at the top of the staircase where the girl they saved has already arrived. She's been running for half an hour without stopping. Up a steep staircase. With a human body. She's smiling. Humming a song. It doesn't matter who she is. Deos says calmly, towering over his servant with hands in pockets. He turns with ominous lights flickering in his eyes. I don't know what she's up to. But if she lied to me about anything, I'll rip her head off. Alex opens his mouth in surprise. Deos watches the girl running ahead. He remembers her earlier words. What did she say about the god of dragons? He asks Alex. Do dragons worship God? No. Alex answers, barely able to stand. He explains it's similar to worship in the demon realm. The true gold dragon stands at the peak of all dragons. Demons. Dragons. Humans. Every living being in this world has only one God. The one who created this world. The Creator. Deos looks thoughtfully at the sky. So God favors only people? He asks, contemplating the snow-white clouds and bright sun. Demons and dragons are just minor characters? Don't doubt him. Alex says. God is the only truth and ideal love. If we can take over what is personally blessed by the light of God, we will be favored. Deos looks into the distance thoughtfully. A very strange way to show love, he says. Alex's legs are shaking from exhaustion. We are there, he announces, and falls face down on the steps. A weakling, Deos states indifferently. He walks forward, stepping directly on his servant's head. Alex quacks muffled into the stone. I'll be relying on you on the way down as well, Deos says. Alex doesn't answer. He tries to peel himself off the steps. They pass through two huge gates into the temple grounds. Deos calls out loudly for the priestess. His eyes glow menacingly. He was absolutely not joking about taking someone's head if he was deceived. Where are the mountain bandits and the true gold dragon's helmet? He demands. Hand it over while I'm still speaking nicely. Alex, trailing slightly behind, asks the hero to be careful. Something doesn't feel clean here. Then something happens behind them. They look around. A familiar voice. Qo, a girl, snake eyes, sitting cross-legged. Almost her entire body wrapped in chains and necklaces with large diamonds. You've done well to get here, she says. Looks like your lackey has better intuition than you. She smiles. So you're the mountain bandit who captured the temple, Deos says. And what about the helmet? Before them, a girl and a couple of demons against the backdrop of a starry sky. How dare you run your filthy mouth? The girl says. Do you understand the situation you're in? Bow down. This body in front of you is the god of all dragons, Law. The one who rules over all dragons and the mother of all dragons. Her face freezes into something quite terrifying. The one and only golden dragon. The true gold dragon, Golden Law. Deos opens his mouth. Alex stands behind the hero. My lord. We've gotten ourselves into a bind. Deos hums thoughtfully. The girl laughs loudly. Were you surprised because it was beyond your lowly expectations? Foolish mortal. Yellow haze appears in her eyes. Beg if you're afraid. I am not one to be petty. Deos rubs his chin. The god of dragons, Law. That's amazing. She asks, do you finally understand now? Then, as your sign of apology, I will command you to do something for me. What are you talking about? Deos asks, starting to pick his nose again. Law of the dragons. Mother of dragons. Or something. I'm just saying, I want a cool title like that too. Law clearly did not expect to hear that. I've always felt something's lacking when I introduce myself. The hero continues, watching over everything from the world's darkness. The top 2% of deep dark alpha males. How's that, Alex? The demons giggle. Alex claps his hands. It was cool, my lord. Law calls out to them with a strange gesture. Tells them to stop talking nonsense. Ask for forgiveness quickly. Don't you have anything to apologize for? Deos pretends to think. Says he doesn't remember having any guilt toward her. Law angrily points a bent finger at him. Didn't you kill the dragon yesterday? I am the mother of all dragons. You killed my child. You're causing a ruckus just because of that? Deos asks, smiling. Apparently he just crossed a line with the goddess. A whirlwind of fire, light, and diamonds erupts around the hero. Just because of that, she says, looking him straight in the eye. I hope you have a dying wish. This place is the Golden Jade Realm. The whirlwind intensifies around him. Her eyes shine brilliantly. Even if you're Demergos, you stand no chance against me in this place. The Golden Jade Realm. Alex shouts, trying to hold his hat in the middle of the fiery whirlwind. My lord, this is the territory of the true Golden Dragon. We're inside her domain. Fighting her here is extremely dangerous. A disgusting smile appears on Law's face. Your lackey is very smart, she tells the hero. Hurry up and kneel before me. 666th. Are you doing this even though you know who I am? A questioning expression appears on her face. The hero's eyes burn with red devilish fire. Predatory smile fully deployed. If you're the true Golden Dragon, he says, I can just take your face to use right now. Prepare yourself, since I'll be ripping the skin right off your face. Law stares at him in complete surprise. Then, genuine fear flickers behind her eyes. But first, Deos says, putting his index finger to his nose. Would you like to apologize for deceiving me? What are you talking about? The goddess asks, furious. No, honestly. The hero begins explaining. He stands directly in front of Law. She seems ready to listen despite herself. I didn't come to Earth to cause trouble, Deos says. I just quietly came with the intention of becoming a hero's companion. He stands completely calm, hands still in his pockets. But all of a sudden, your child showed up in the village, started a fire, destroyed all the buildings. What should I do? We had to defeat it in self-defense. The goddess listens in silence, not with the most pleasant expression. You didn't show up when your own child was making a mess. Deos continues. And now you show up to deal with us, who are just sitting still. You fooled us by pretending to be a shaman and a bandit. Then you suddenly claim to be the goddess of dragons and demand I apologize. He looks boldly into the eyes of the goddess. Do you really think, he asks, that I'm going to fall on my knees in front of you and beg? Oh, goddess of dragons, forgive me. I won't do it again? He shakes his head. I won't do it. He tilts his head slightly. If you are the god of dragons, is it okay for you to do whatever you please? Are dragons really like that? The fiery speech seems to genuinely impress the goddess. She asks, confused, what? Alex steps forward from the side. He is right, he declares. It is extremely arrogant to think that what you say is always right just because you have power. The same fire burns in the servant's eyes as his master's. It is natural for anyone in the world to fight for their own safety. Moreover, the dragon side was the one who forgot the peace agreement and violated it. This is a situation where you should be asking for forgiveness. So, as the dragon goddess, you owe an apology to the villagers of Zorks. The goddess really wants to escape from these two impossibly eloquent demons. She asks helplessly what? We all understand perfectly well. Deos continues, that if a child commits a crime, the parent bears responsibility. I'm not their real mother. The goddess tries to justify herself, sweating. Are you trying to evade responsibility? Alex asks. The goddess gasps, not knowing where to look. Strange. You don't want to be responsible for anything. But at the same time you want to enjoy power. Two demons standing in the middle of a fiery whirlpool, literally driving the enemy insane with their speeches. Hey, have you seen the Golden Realm? Deos asks casually. Just because the kids are a problem doesn't mean the parents are always the problem. But don't you know, parents who don't care about their children at all on a regular basis, when something finally happens, they suddenly take their children's side. It's because of parents like you that all parents get cursed. This is not an issue to just ignore. Alex picks up seamlessly. As the representative of dragons, the god of dragons, you should apologize for violating the peace agreement. As the one responsible, you should take responsibility and resign. Blood flows from the goddess's ears. She scratches her head. That's all. Why do I have the feeling that I did something wrong to these demons? That's right. You did something wrong, Deos says. And now, with your permission, we will leave. He turns around and walks. Alex follows immediately. Wait. The goddess shouts after them. Shouldn't you at least listen to my request while you're still here? She seems to be slowly coming back to her senses after the verbal assault she just endured. Deos turns his face toward her. First, apologize, he demands. He looks at her with honest eyes. Law gasps in surprise. Don't be afraid, the hero says calmly. It's not scary at all. You won't lose anything. A long pause. Wait. He waits.
I'm sorry.
The goddess, the vortex around her almost completely gone, stands guiltily in front of two demons. Deos puts his hand on her head. Law clearly did not expect that at all. Okay. He says, I don't really need this, but since you were forced to apologize, I will gladly accept it. He keeps his hand on her head. This is of course a little strange. Law says, but I'll pretend I didn't notice, because I'm generous. The hero laughs. Okay. What do you want, dragon head? He says with a welcoming smile. The goddess is not happy. Very serious face. In short, she says, you have to hunt dragons. Deos is genuinely surprised. He looks at her. The true gold dragon. God of dragons. The law. Mother of all dragons. His face turns slightly red, either from the listing of titles or from the sheer absurdity of what she just asked. Asks me, the demon king, to hunt dragons. Her own children. Yes. The goddess says hesitantly. Do you think I'm an idiot? Deos says. This is obviously a trap. You want me to believe that nonsense? You're really out of your mind, you little punk. He screams and waves his fists. No, it's not like that. The goddess cowers, trying to convince him. Is it because of that purple melium thing? Alex asks quietly. Hearing those words, Deos turns to his servant in surprise. Alex explains calmly, it was attached to the dragon's body. Something like a strange parasite. It seemed to be taking over the dragon's consciousness completely. The goddess pulls her hand away from the hero and hits Alex in the chest with her elbow irritably. Then starts talking. Something is wrong right now, she says. These hardliners, the ones who reject the peace agreement signed with humans. Deos asks who she means. The goddess explains, the dragon killed yesterday was one of their victims. The hardliners are a group who have suffered deeply at the hands of humans. She looks up at the sky. Losing beloved ones. Having their children hunted for weapons. But we still have to remain neutral. The demons listen silently. These ones, blinded by anger, they're attacking towns. Infecting dragons living in peace with powerful and strange magic I've never even heard of before. To start a war between humans and dragons all over again. So you have to catch them first. The demons listen quietly to her story, so that innocent children no longer die miserably while being used as tools of war. She says sadly. Deos smiles, still not taking his hands out of his pockets. I understand what you're talking about, he says. It's called hunting. But a troublemaker called a hardliner is manipulating an otherwise peaceful dragon, driving it to madness, sending suicide attackers at humans. And you want me to catch them before the humans kill them. Is this right? He looks at the goddess. Yes, she answers, straightening to her full height in front of the demons. How are you going to repay me? Deos asks immediately. The goddess is silent, not knowing what to answer. He smiles and insists. There must be a fee for my services. What do you want? The goddess asks, irritated. 5 dragon scales. Deos replies. He duplicates the number with widely spread fingers. Since ancient times it has been said that weapons are made from dragons. He shows off his hand proudly. Every time I catch one I take 5 scales. That's fair, right? In addition, weapons and armor worth 1,000 gold refined with dragon breath, based on selling price. How about it? The goddess, surrounded by her precious necklaces, is silent in confusion. You're a complete fraud, right? She finally asks, tears rolling down her cheeks. Think what you want, Deos says. He snaps his fingers. Contract appears. Deos will do the job. The golden dragon will pay. 1. Job description. Catch and punish dragons causing trouble in human towns. Hand them over to the golden dragon. 2. Price. 5 dragon scales per dragon and weapons worth 1,000 gold. Paid by the morning after completing each task. 3. If this contract is violated, you become Deos' slave. The goddess reads it, tries to understand what it means for her. If you say your name, the contract is concluded. The hero says, smiling. It's a deal with the devil. Don't try to cheat, because your soul is on the line. The goddess looks at him angrily. I understand that perfectly well, she says. Damn you. She identifies herself. The god of dragons. Golden dragon. Deos grins predatorily. The contract is concluded. The The demons turn and head for the exit. Open the door. The hero says, "We'll handle the work in a few days." "Devil." The goddess calls. Deos turns around. "Please," she says, lowering her eyes. "Catch them alive." She looks at the hero with pleading eyes. "No more deaths needed." Deos smiles. "The client's desire is law for me." He giggles and leaves the temple. The demons begin descending the stairs. "Well, that all went unexpectedly well," Deos says. "Yes," Alex answers. Then suddenly, Deos turns around and sprints back to the temple. Alex stares after him in complete surprise. "Goddess of dragons." The hero shouts, indignant. The temple doors are already closed. "What are you doing?" Alex asks. "SHE didn't give me the true gold dragon helmet," he shouts, literally losing his mind with rage. "We can't go back to the golden jade now, we're not dragons," Alex explains. Deos jumps, spins, screaming, "Sneaky dragon! You fooled me again." The demon's cart waits at the foot of the mountain below. "Someday, I'll definitely rip your skin off your face," Deos shouts at the closed temple doors. Scene shift, inside the destroyed hotel. "An arms dealer?" someone asks angrily. "Yes," Deos answers happily, folding his hands in front of his face. "But why?" Alex asks. Zeke stands beside them trying to understand what they're arguing about. "Why are you suddenly an arms dealer?" Alex shouts, enraged. "Did you abandon us all and come to Earth just to sell weapons?" Zeke tries to restrain Alex before he does something regrettable. "Did you feel nothing when humans hunted dragon babies and made weapons from them?" Alex shouts, pointing his finger directly in his master's face. "It's just business, you brainless idiot." Deos replies calmly. "Dragon-scale monopoly is the weapon the true gold dragon gives me." His eyes light up. "How many kills will this get me?" "I knew it right away. Am I already in the top 2%? He rubs his finger under his nose, making rapid calculations in his head, already seeing himself as an extraordinarily wealthy demon. "She said she'll give me weapons if I just catch dragons. Isn't this a total freebie? War breaks out every 100 years. Isn't the arms trade the best business that can never fail?" "No, if there is no devil there is no war." Alex shouts, "Come to your senses." He grabs the hero by the shoulder and shakes him. Zeke watches the exchange, scratching the back of his head. Thinks, catching a dragon was free? "And you idiot, do you still not know who I am?" The hero starts screaming back. The familiar devilish fire lights up in his eyes. "The arms dealer is just a source of funds for the real plan. I have no intention of living as a businessman forever. Did you forget?" Deep dark, watching from the darkness. A man who controls all the weapons in the world. He looks intently into his servant's eyes. As expected, that's what it is, Alex thinks. Now quickly take the defective product and find a useful store. Deos shouts frantically. "Depart." Alex grabs the receptionist and sprints off to carry out the order at surprising speed. "Why do I continue to do business?" Deos thinks to himself. The ultimate goal, naturally, is to own buildings. He imagines it with a deeply satisfied expression. The best building owner in the fantasy world. "Alex, I'm glad you're an idiot," he says happily. He spins his boots off and climbs into bed. Lies with his hands behind his head. Sun shines brightly through the massive hole in the roof. He lets the rays fall on his face, and remembers everything that happened. The flying cross on the cathedral roof. The receptionist who talked about being F rank. Just a defective product. The fight with the dragon. The meeting with the goddess who asked him to catch her children alive. Deos seems to be drifting toward sleep. He looks at the sun through the crack in the roof. Thinks he's already created a stable stream of cash income. Saved a hero. His original goal has largely been achieved. Now he can do nothing. Just get rich. But what is this emptiness? A whisper somewhere deep inside. Blood and carnage. Would it make me feel any better if I killed and crushed all the humans in this town? Deos sees the crossed-out face of the receptionist flash through his half-asleep brain. Thoughts and images flicker rapidly. Kill them all. Destroy the world. Make mankind your slaves. Make Earth into hell. Then you'll end the reincarnation. Being reborn and dying every 100 years underground where the sun no longer shines. Deos seems ready to finally fall asleep. His eyes close. Get some sleep and shut up. Morning comes. "Here it is," says someone whose legs we see first. A dilapidated building with cracked walls. Stairs leading up to it. A new weapon shop. Alex stands on the stairs beside the stretching hero. The owners died during the dragon invasion. We purchased it at a low price. Not bad, Deos says, still stretching. You found it quickly. Once I heard the real plan. I couldn't sit still with excitement. Alex says, smiling. Deos laughs. Says they are indeed fighting for the real plan. Alex inspects the purchase thoughtfully. I think our store would look very nice if we asked Zeke to renovate it. Can he do the job? Yes. He said he worked as a carpenter. The hero looks at his future store. Admits, for his young age Zeke is truly remarkable. Then he turns to Alex. But isn't blood level passed down from generation to generation? I mean, even if pure-blooded people have children, the child can still be F grade, right? Yes, Alex answers. On the contrary, there are quite a few examples where a child born between an F-class hero and a saint becomes the last hero standing. The demons still stand in front of their dilapidated purchase. In general, everything here is random, Deos says. Alex confirms. Then there's no hope for defective products? The hero asks. Just because the family is great, shouldn't an F child just be labeled as grade F? That's also ambiguous. Alex answers, looking very impressive in his wide-brimmed hat. Although it's not skill, property is inherited. A family that frequently produces high-ranking warriors or saints will have wealth equivalent to a king. He smiles. With that money you can raise your child's hero level or blood level in various ways. So on the other hand, if you get an F, it's hard for your child to shine. Unless you get an F, is that right? The hero asks, looking up. Yes, Alex answers. And since Zeke himself said he was F grade, but he must have already been ranked as a hero. Deos looks ahead thoughtfully. Do you know what I'm thinking about right now? He asks. No, the servant answers. About why demons are always defeated by creatures whose heroism is determined by such a pathetic and insignificant factor as money. He becomes enraged. Grabs Alex by the throat. Why? Speak up, bastard. Alex screams, loudly begging for forgiveness. Deos calms down slightly, face still red with anger. Let's end this conversation. He straightens up. In any case, the demon world doesn't interest me anymore. He looks around. By the way, where did our hero go? Noodles. A steaming bowl of noodles with all the additives. Looking extremely appetizing. Part of a sign visible, something like Warrior Noodles. Selling the food, none other than Zeke. He spots the hero and smiles. Asks why he woke up so early. Deos and Alex approach the counter. Why did you suddenly start selling noodles? The hero asks. I had a little time. The guy answers. Why not? The pay here is pretty decent too. The hero is immediately drawn in by the aroma. He sits down on a barrel being used as a chair. Give me some noodles, he orders, placing his hands on the counter. Yes, master. Zeke drops noodles into boiling water. Throws in vegetables. Pours the finished dish into a bowl and presents it. These are noodles? Deos asks in surprise. He picks up the pasta with chopsticks. Puts them in his mouth. Swallows. Pause. This is incredibly tasty. He shouts it enthusiastically. This is a real delicacy. Is it true? Alex asks. Then give me some too. Having received his portion, the hero's servant greedily devours the noodles. His face says everything. Complete and total delight. Both demons unanimously praise the young cook. Zeke, you don't have to become a hero. Become a chef. I take that as a compliment. Zeke says, smiling, scratching the back of his head in embarrassment, clearly very pleased by their reaction. Master, thank you very much. He says to the hero who is happily choking on his noodles. Thanks to you I was able to buy school uniforms for my younger brothers. They just started warrior school. And it really bothered me that they were the only two without uniforms. He smiles sincerely. Deos keeps inhaling noodles. These guys act all nonchalant, but they genuinely become happy when you do something for them. Warrior school? Deos asks, sucking in another strand of pasta. Yes, this may sound presumptuous, Zeke says smiling, but I'm sending them both to a private warrior elementary school. I may not be strong, but I'm confident they can become real warriors. So I'll invest in them. Then, from somewhere to the side. Look, there's a fly in my soup. Deos and Zeke turn toward the voice. An angry, middle-aged man. Very unpleasant face. holding a bowl of noodles at arm's length. Damn it, he yells. I always try to avoid this nasty restaurant. But today I was hungry and decided to stop by. So what did I get? The girl next to him says she warned him not to eat in this pigsty. Sorry, sir. Zeke tries to justify himself. There are no flies here. At that same second, a plate of noodles flies at Zeke's head. He barely covers himself with his hand. Deos looks sideways at the man. What are you saying, that I'm lying? The man shouts, mouth wide open. His companion smiles with satisfaction. You bastard. Do you even know who my father is? If I tell him what happened here, this filthy place will be closed today. Then he recognizes Zeke and freezes for a second. Wait. Isn't this the Hollage family? You mean that family that was important? The girl asks. The other customers at their tables look over in surprise. Start whispering to each other. Hollage is still around. The holy Hollage family. When did heroes become chefs? It's not Beach, it's Hollage. Zeke says sadly, noodles still on his head. I knew it. The dissatisfied client shouts, laughing maliciously. A poor family. His father came to my house begging for work. His companion is in complete ecstasy over this man's behavior. And now you little bastard are selling slop on the street. Like father, like son. Zeke, not knowing where to escape from the humiliation, simply stands still. Doesn't even try to remove the noodles on his head. You're a hero too, right? The man keeps going. So you sell hero noodles? He laughs loudly. Then, a loud slam of a hand on the table. What kind of fly is here preventing me from eating properly? Deos turns to face the man. Zeke calls out to him, trying to prevent what's coming. Too late. You called me a fly, right? Deos says. Maybe you want to slap me? He extends his hand forward. Fingers spread. The man and his companion look at it, almost hypnotized. Let's kill some flies. The hero says. His eyes begin to glow. The man who abused Zeke twists into a shapeless lump. Arms and legs protruding in completely unnatural directions. Zeke looks at what happened in pure horror. The companion screams. Mouth wide open. Then runs away sobbing and begging to be saved. One runs away. Deos notes. A black hole with a purple edge appears inside his outstretched arm. The girl who was just reveling in her companion's cruelty now lies beside him, arms and legs broken. We see a clenched fist. The heroes. People who don't respect the heroes risking their lives to fight on their behalf don't deserve to enjoy this earth. Alex looks at his boss silently, then turns back to the counter and continues finishing his noodles. Let's eat. Ah, yes. Zeke answers, not understanding anything. Then a sheet of paper appears above the hero's head, falls directly into his bowl, forces him to stop eating. He reads it. Dragons have appeared in Lee Castle. Depart immediately. Law. Deos decisively places his chopsticks on the table. Defective product. Close your restaurant. He smiles. It's the first mission for our VIP customer. Let's go make money. Yes, sir. Zeke answers happily. Night over the mountains. Horse legs visible. Pulling a cart somewhere through the darkness. Deos. Alex. Zeke all sitting inside. Zeke has his saucepan on his head again. Alex notices the guy shaking, clutching his mop shaft with both hands. Zeke glances back at the hero and sees him lying calmly in the back of the cart, picking his nose. As usual. I don't know if you'll believe me, Zeke says to Alex, but when I look at the master, for some reason I feel an absurd sense of confidence. Something like, I can defeat any dragon. He smiles, holding the pan on his head. Although I know I'll shake with fear the moment I actually see the monster. It's a good mindset, Alex says, smiling. Zeke. No matter what you think of yourself. He looks at him seriously. The master chose you as a hero. I don't know about other times, but when we're on an adventure. Zeke looks at him with wide eyes. You are our leader. So be brave. Yes, I understand. The guy answers. You speak too quietly for a leader, Alex says, smiling. Oh, we've almost reached the castle. Hold on tight. The cartwheel spins quickly. Zeke screams, trying to stay on. Then his eyes go round, either from surprise or pure terror. Above the castle, against the backdrop of the moon, a gigantic dragon. How huge? Zeke shouts. A purple parasite visible on the monster's head, eyes glowing brightly. Zeke turns to Alex, trying to say something. The castle has already been captured. Alex says, "What happened to the residents?" "Don't panic." Deo says, "Quiet until now." He looks at Zeke calmly. "They're gathered over there." The hero points. In a castle this size, there should be several G-class warriors. So apparently the evacuation was successful. Alex confirms his master's assessment. "What a relief," Zeke says, looking at the snowy landscape. "The stage is ready and all the onlookers have gathered." Deos declares enthusiastically, "Legendary product. It's showtime. Get ready." "What?" Zeke asks, joy in his eyes. He can't believe he was just called that. Meanwhile, from nearby rocks, the sound of a loud cough. A decent number of people have gathered here, freezing in terrible cold, trying to warm themselves however possible. Their voices reach the cart. Suddenly a dragon. "The world is in ruins. Give the blankets to the injured. I feel like I'm going to die from cold. Don't fall off. Stick close. God, please give us the hand of salvation. Can you stop praying?" The loudest voice cuts through everything. An old man, desperately interrogating God about the blizzard. "Please stop this," he begs, tears and snot flowing freely. "God, you've really left us." People tell him to shut up. It doesn't help. "I don't know what it is about God, but at least the king has decided to leave us alone." The old man screams and sobs even harder. Nearby, a massive army gathered around a barrier sphere radiating heat. "Oh, how hot it is," someone says inside it. A king with an enormous belly sits above them all. A priest beside him, raising his hand, muttering spells. "What happened to the heroes sent to the fortress for the rescue request?" The monarch shouts, enormous crown askew. "I want them back at the castle immediately." The priest in his pointed headdress reports grimly. They've all apparently fallen victim to a terrible frost. He cannot contact them through magic. The monarch sputters with saliva, demanding the priest do something. Anything, before he loses his mind completely. Then sounds from ahead. The king clings to the priest and glances toward the noise. He sees a hero. Shorts, strange cloak, armed with a mop. "The hero is here," Deos shouts. Zeke's eyes through the pan-holes, very determined. The cart launches into the air, flies directly over the king's head. The monarch screams, bare belly completely uncovered, looking up in utter amazement. Horses, an archaic vehicle, flying over his head. Everyone around him is equally shocked. "No, he's just a pervert who likes to walk around in his underpants." Comes from the cart. "He is running away, catch him." The king shouts. Zeke thinks to himself, "I am so deeply ashamed. It's a little cold here." The king shouts at the kneeling priest, "Activate your magic again, quickly," then turns back toward the retreating cart. "How dare you jump over the emperor?" He sputters with saliva. "I really hope the dragon kills you." Among the freezing refugees, a child in his mother's arms raises a tiny finger, points at the sky. "What is this?" the woman asks in amazement. "Is he going to fight a dragon? In his underpants?" The cart rushes toward a giant dragon towering over a castle on a high rock. The freezing refugees watch in complete disbelief. Can't be that this is a hero, they think. Looking at Zeke charging toward the monster in his shorts, holding out a very ordinary mop. The guy is absolutely freezing. He looks at Alex from under his saucepan. Says he is cold and experiencing tremendous shame simultaneously. "Thank you for your hard work," Alex replies. Zeke looks in shock at the images floating past him. People who froze to death without making it to warmth. He opens his mouth, looks up, a white flash above the castle. The dragon is already very close. The battle will begin any minute. Legendary product. Get ready. Deo's orders. The guy turns his head toward the hero through the panholes, clearly scared. "We act like last time," the hero says. "Alex will catch it and throw it in front of you. Then you swing the mop at the right moment, just like before. And we'll end this performance. It's clear," Zeke says, streams of something from his nose, looking at his commander in amazement. "As for you, Alex," Deos says quite calmly to his servant, "don't make me do what I did last time." "Don't worry, master," Alex answers, smiling. He extends his finger. A crack appears in space where he points. The demon rises and steps aboard. "Last time," he says, eyes sparkling, "I was a little confused because I didn't immediately understand what state it was in. But now I won't repeat that mistake." Deos calls out to Alex. He silently indicates he's listening. The hero looks at his servant with a stern expression. Don't kill it, he says. Capture it alive. Okay. Alex replies. I'll only kill it halfway. His eyes glow ominously. Zeke. Alex calls the frozen guy. This one is very big and I think it's going to be very loud. He smiles. Please stay still and find a good position. I knew it, Zeke thinks. Okay. See you later, Alex says. He disappears into the crack he created. Zeke tries to call after him. He no longer hears. Legendary product. Stop the carriage. Deos orders. The guy looks around in surprise. I want to sleep a little. The hero says, turning on his side. Make sure everything is fine. Zeke is confused but tries to say something. The hero opens one eye to listen. An incredibly loud dragon roar erupts from above. Alex has apparently already arrived. Could you come with me? Zeke begs. I think I'm about to wet myself. As expected, the guy was genuinely horrified meeting the dragon in person. The parasite that had taken over the dragon's body moved its red eyes in every direction. All eyes froze and looked upward when a loud scream rang out. Alex appeared high above, emerging from a portal, and dropped straight down toward the roaring dragon. The parasite stretched its limbs forward like tentacles, directed the attack at Alex. The man skillfully maneuvered through the tentacles, simultaneously landing magical blows on the dragon's body. The dragon roared and crashed onto the cold ice. Zeke watching from a distance, his mop hand shaking from the cold, eyes going wide, face red with embarrassment, puffs of steam coming from his mouth. He thought enthusiastically, this is simply amazing. After the dragon hit the ground, white smoke mixed with snow rose everywhere. Zeke couldn't see anything through it. He frowned and began looking around sharply. He needed to find a position where Alex could spot him quickly. Then, a loud voice suddenly rang out calling him something very specific. A round wooden shield flew at him. Without expecting it, he caught it with both hands. Deos had thrown it, hands behind his head, completely relaxed expression. He noted Zeke had already forgotten the shield he'd been carrying the whole way. Said a hero should at least have a shield. Added, these were instructions from the boy's father. The Demon King moved his palm forward. A bolt of energy appeared from his index finger, heading straight toward the shield. Zeke jumped in surprise. Deos said he forgot to do something. Violet energy began sparkling throughout the entire shield's surface. Zeke looked at it, surprised and completely delighted. Deos looked at him and opened his mouth wide. It's a protective barrier, he said. This should withstand a direct dragon strike. Zeke smiled joyfully, tears of joy appearing on his face. He opened his mouth to say words of gratitude, and saw Deos already sleeping soundly in the cart, snoring loudly. Zeke stood there for a moment, then mentally wished Sir Deos sweet dreams. He kicked off from the cart and ran toward the battle, shield in one hand, mop in the other. He thought excitedly, this time he would definitely not screw up. He had to hurry, he couldn't keep Sir Alex waiting. Running hard, Zeke looked around rapidly. He needed somewhere high and central, visible from everywhere. A tall ice formation with a rounded ledge caught his attention. Perfect spot. He accelerated toward it, then screamed in surprise. He slipped on the icy ground, fell face down, slid a considerable distance with a loud cry. Above, standing on the fallen dragon's head, Alex struck the parasite with his hand. The parasite let out a loud roar from the wound. Alex stepped forward directly onto one of the many eyes, plunged his wrist into the parasite's body again, pulled it back out. His gaze showed both confidence and intense dissatisfaction. The parasite's eyes widened and glowed red. Alex spread his fingers, long claws extending wide. A moment later the dragon opened its mouth and attacked with magical spit. The dragon rose to its feet, spread its wings, soared skyward with a thunderous roar. The flapping wings created a cloud of dust and snow. Then through the cloud, a long clawed purple hand pushed through. With a sharp movement it stretched to an enormous length and grabbed the dragon by a thong. Stopped it cold. The magical creature was thrown into complete confusion. Alex, red hieroglyphic spots already appearing across him, held on tight and rose with it. He pulled himself up and delivered a powerful kick directly to the creature's head, disorienting it completely in midair. Alex climbed onto the dragon's head, planted his feet firmly on its long fangs. One hand already replaced by several purple claw limbs, he raised them sharply to strike. eyes burning brilliantly. He drove the limbs directly into the parasite's body. From the impact, the dragon lost all control of itself and crashed into an icy mountain. Alex took a few steps and stopped near the fallen creature's head, the dragon emitting a quiet roar beneath him. The snowstorm blew through the man's white hair as he held his magical hands ready in every direction. He noted with displeasure, the magical creature was extremely tenacious. Asked if it was because of its size. As he moved closer, the dragon opened its mouth and roared with flashing eyes. Alex raised his hands to attack, said it was time to finish this. A moment later, from a considerable distance, Zeke watched a powerful blow send pieces of the mountain flying in every direction like enormous cobblestones. He thought, just wonderful. Broom and shield in hand, he climbed onto the ice ledge. He was terrified to be here, but mentally he couldn't help admiring the fact that Sir Alex was handling a dragon alone. He stared with a flushed face and wide-open eyes. Wondered, is Alex actually a dragon hunter himself? Then a loud sound from behind. The local residents, hiding on the mountainside from the dragon, were shouting and clapping. The crowd pushed each other aside for a better view. People cheering, waving hands, calling for the hero's victory, saying God had heard their prayers. A fat man nervously tapped his teeth, asked, is this boy really a hero? Zeke looked at the locals with wide eyes, face flushing red again. He thought happily, everyone is cheering for him. He turned back toward the battle, but the loud cries of belief and encouragement didn't stop. Standing on the ledge on shaky legs, he watched the fierce battle continue on the mountain ahead. He thought, who is the real hero here? It's definitely not me. Shaking with fear, he thought with burning jealousy he wanted to be just like Alex. He wanted to become a real hero, save people, give them hope. Then, a quiet voice from behind. He turned in surprise. Two people, freezing, huddled in each other's arms. The man, no signs of life, hugging his wife tightly. Thick ice growths already forming across their bodies. In a trembling voice, the girl asked the hero for help. At that exact moment, the dragon's long tail swung out and struck Alex hard. He flew sideways from the blow. Zeke snapped his head around with a frightened expression. Alex caught himself mid-fall, landed neatly on a block of ice, burning eyes flashing. He shook his magical limb with visible displeasure. The dragon dug its claws into the stone and descended after him, spreading enormous wings, roaring deafeningly. The parasite continued spreading further across its head. After the long roar, a spell began emerging from the dragon's body. Alex landed in a crouch, clutching his large limb in a fist. He asked aloud, does the parasite regenerate as long as the host lives? Is that its real strength? Red hieroglyphic spots spreading increasingly across his face. He looked at the creature with deep displeasure. Said it looked more like a zombie dragon. The ice dragon straightened up, spreading its wings, burning red light reflecting off everything. Alex narrowed his eyes. Since killing the dragon was impossible, only one option remained. Cut off all the excess. The dragon pushed off the stone and soared skyward, rushing toward Alex with its mouth open wide. The man squatting on the hill, angry gaze blazing with bright red light, cast his spell loudly. 100 hands. Many long-clawed limbs began forming behind his back. They rushed toward the approaching dragon. Alex commanded all of them together, the long arms intertwined, forming one single enormous limb. He shouted for them to merge into one. The massive purple hand clenched into a fist. It swung with a sharp, powerful movement toward the ice dragon. The fist connected directly on the head, right where the parasite existed. The huge hand pulled back, splashing blue blood. Alex cast again immediately. 100 demonic hands. Behind his back, many giant limbs formed simultaneously, all directing their fists at the dragon. He shouted the next spell. A hellish hammer of hands. A giant hand rushed in and grabbed the dragon's head. The arm formed from all the merged limbs squeezed the dragon's neck with everything it had. The dragon began accumulating energy in its mouth for a magical strike. Noticing this, Alex began wrapping his arms around his own body, creating protection. The dragon tilted its head and fired a stream of powerful ice energy. It hit everything in the surrounding area. Zeke, struck by the shock wave, flew upward with a loud cry. He rolled head over heels down the snowdrifts, hit the ground hard, coughed loudly, covered one eye. Alex, completely wrapped in magic, remained uninjured. He peered out from between his hands with an evil burning gaze. said in a low voice it was time to end all this. The dragon, head held in Alex's grip, opened its mouth wide. A loud spell began forming within it. Alex's eyes widened. He fixed his gaze on the creature. He began chanting, ordering hundreds of demonic hands to merge into one. Then commanded, one hand splits into three. 3 enormous purple arms appeared behind him, sticking out in different directions. One hand reached out to the dragon's left wing and grabbed it. Another grabbed the right wing. The side hands began stretching both wings in opposite directions, injuring them, while the central hand continued holding the dragon by the head. The dragon's eye, engulfed by the parasite, lit up with fierce light. It roared loudly. Alex darted sideways. The central hand sharply pulled the dragon toward the ground, forcing its head down. He cast the next spell, ordering his hands to perform a backflip. The side hands swung their fists to strike. Many large hands began taking turns hammering the dragon lying on the ground. Alex chanted again, summoning a great demonic strike, ordering a hail of blows to be unleashed. The local residents crowded together, watching with fascinated wide eyes. Meanwhile, Zeke, sitting on the ground resting on his shield, watched the giant hands deliver powerful alternating blows. Then he turned his head sharply, eyes widening in concern. Now was not the time to be idle. He stood up suddenly and sprinted toward the freezing couple. He had to save them, quickly. He ran to them, frantically grabbed at the ice block that had formed around them. The woman, in a quiet, exhausted voice, asked him for help. "Don't worry," Zeke said loudly. "I'll free you right away." He grabbed the ice, pulled back immediately with a grimace, shouted the ice was impossibly cold. He exhaled and looked at them with forced confidence. The man was completely encased in ice, only a lifeless face visible, frozen tears accumulated on it. He had frozen to death. Zeke thought he had to at least save the girl. Then his eyes widened when he heard a loud, prolonged cry. In the girl's arms, a baby, crying loudly, choking with tears, ice crusts already forming on the girl's face. She asked in a trembling voice, "Save at least the child." Zeke drove the wooden side of his broom into the ice block, started hammering at it furiously, shouted to the girl, wait a little longer, he would handle it. He would save them. In the back of his mind he already understood. He would probably have to cut through the father's frozen body to reach both of them. Not far away, the fierce battle between Alex and the possessed dragon continued. Zeke thought Alex would be wrapping up soon. He had to hurry, get the people out, return to position. Then, a huge blue crystal grew from the dragon's back, began glowing with blinding white light. Alex stared at it in visible surprise. The local residents who saw it immediately became alarmed. A man, lower face covered, blood oozing from one eye, screamed at Zeke. "Move aside quickly. That same light destroyed our entire castle." The crystal pulsed larger and brighter. A blinding flash, an icy shock wave began covering everything in cold. Zeke, still hacking at the ice block, froze when he saw it rushing toward him. He raised his enchanted shield, protected him from the initial blast. Then the shield shattered into pieces. Zeke screamed and flew to the side. The locals watched the shock wave reach them, screaming, closing eyes, covering faces. The fat man jumped from the icy draft hitting him, shouted indignantly that he was very cold. The dragon rose to its feet and roared, enormous ice growths spreading across its back. Alex took a few steps toward the creature. He laughed. Just like last time, his body began taking on a completely red hue, the boundaries of his body parts blurring, becoming one glowing red mass with hieroglyphs pulsing across it. He said grimly, it was becoming difficult to maintain this skin, the one he had preserved specifically for the war 20 years from now. Added irritably, it was tiring. Zeke lay on the cold ground, body covered in snow, thinking about what just happened. After some time his eyes opened. He wondered why wasn't he dead. Mentally concluded, it must have been Sir Deos's magic and the enchanted shield. Then a loud baby cry. His eyes widened in surprise. The child. He raised himself on his elbows and found where the crying was coming from. The child lying in the arms of its dead mother, whose frozen body had broken off below the waist, crying loudly, choking with tears. Zeke thought with relief the child was still alive. He braced himself on his elbows, clenched his teeth, tried to stand. He fell. Something was wrong. He glanced back. 2 legs below the knee gone. his left arm up to the elbow gone. Frozen so completely by the ice wave that they had simply broken off. He stared. This couldn't be real. Above, the huge crystal on the dragon's back began pulsing again. Glowing white light building in intensity. The local residents, still recovering from the first blast, noticed it immediately. Began moving away with frightened eyes. The man with the bleeding eye shouted, "Another outbreak incoming." He leaned forward, eyes widening, eyebrows furrowing. Screamed at Zeke urgently, "Get away from there. Get away now with whatever you have left." Zeke, one remaining hand already reddened from cold, began dragging himself forward, teeth clenched tight, moving toward the crying child. He tried to help himself with what remained of his arm, broken off below the elbow, freezing in the cold air. He thought he had to save this child. He had to, because he was a hero. Slowly but surely he continued crawling through the frozen corpses, toward the screaming child, not caring about the missing limbs. While locals shouted loudly for Sir Hero to come back towards safety, Zeke thought he was still a hero, even if he was a bad one, even if he couldn't save everyone the way other heroes do. He had to save this child. He had to. Alex stood in front of the glowing dragon crystal, stretching his demonic hands toward it. He asked, did the parasite really not understand that this wasn't working for him? Said, "That's exactly why people get used over and over again." Called the creature a stupid lizard. An ice wave burst from the crystal again, far more powerful than any before it. Zeke, covering the child with his own body, closed his eyes and screamed when the blast hit. His body was thrown high into the air. He flew a considerable distance, but he never let go of the baby. When he landed, his body was covered in snow. A moment later, a sound. Something landed on top of him. A fur cape. Zeke opened his eyes slowly. He raised his gaze upward. Deos. The white-haired demon crouched in front of him, red eyes flashing, resting his head on his fist. He said quietly, "He really doesn't understand anything." He asked rhetorically, "How do all these people hope to defeat him?" Added, "They are all too weak for that." He stared intently at the boy with red eyes, opened his mouth slightly, sharp fangs visible. Said thoughtfully, "They are all like candles he could easily blow out. And yet, these people sacrifice themselves for each other." He noted, he couldn't understand how they had lost to people like this for 66,500 years in a row. Zeke smiled weakly, looking up at him, stammered an apology for not being there on time. Said he could definitely do better next time. After those words, the boy passed out, face buried in the snow. Deos stood up slowly, quiet long groan. Zeke, face bandaged, slowly opened his eyes. His eyelids drooped again almost immediately. Then he jolted upright with a shocked expression. Shouted, "Where is the dragon? Where is Sir Deos? What happened to the dragon?" He looked around. He was in the penthouse bed of the hotel, the same one whose roof had recently been missing. He began scratching his head, then froze abruptly, trying to understand what was happening. How did he end up here? Then something caught his attention. His eyes showed simultaneous shock and fear. The arm that had been broken off during the snow attack was back in place, covered in large purple scars from stitching. He tore off the blanket with a sharp movement. His legs, same scars, also back in place. He stared at the stitches slowly, remembering the terrible state he was in, unable to understand how this was possible. Then a laughing voice nearby, a second voice agreeing. The boy, still in shock, realized the first voice belonged to Sir Deos. He rushed to the edge of the wreckage and peered down, called out loudly, then froze in surprise again. Below, a massive pile of swords, shields, and daggers. Deos and Alex standing around it, looking up at him with smiles. Deos asked if he slept well. The guy held out his hands in front of him in complete disbelief. Stammered what happened to his body. Then stopped and asked what happened to the dragon. Then stopped again and asked what happened to the baby. Deos thought, this guy is interested in a lot of things. The corners of his lips curled up into a smile. He looked up at Zeke calmly. Said, "Both the dragon and the child were taken care of. No need to worry." He added, if Zeke had rested enough, come down and help with cleaning. Time to open the store. Zeke, who had been waving his arms this whole time, froze, mouth open, gasping. Then as soon as he saw Deos's face, his cheeks turned red. A sweet smile stretched across his face. All the anxiety just went away. He shouted back loudly, "Understood. At the master's decree." And so they continued fulfilling the requests of the Golden Dragon. The cart clattered loudly over stones moving at great speed. Zeke, saucepan helmet on head, frowned and clenched his teeth, looking at a large dragon destroying the city below, dousing everything in flames. Local residents running in every direction screaming for help. Deos pointed his index finger at Zeke and told him to attack. Zeke's eyebrows narrowed to the bridge of his nose. His face went stern. He shouted to Sir Alex, "Ready?" Alex leapt from a portal in the sky and descended fast toward the dragon. Struck it with a powerful concentrated blow. Every time they defeated a dragon, it somehow disappeared. The next morning, a pile of weapons appeared outside the hotel. Zeke, looking up at the broken wall of the penthouse, called out to Deos, who walked out in his night pajamas, rubbing sleepy eyes, picking his nose. A long sword flew right past his head. He looked up. Various types of weapons and shields raining down from the sky toward the hotel entrance. He looked down. Alex and Zeke standing in a pile of weapons below. Zeke with a shield over his head, swords stacked on top of it, smiling widely. Morning after morning, a mountain of weapons appeared in front of their house. Deos, fighting the urge to fall back asleep, extended his thumb forward. "Good work." The cart rushed at great speed through green thickets. A huge multicolored dragon, body covered in yellow, green, red, and purple feathers, appeared and roared. Zeke smiled confidently and called Sir Alex. Alex soared into the sky in one leap, dropped down toward the dragon with sudden force, defeated it with a powerful strike. Even that roar couldn't wake Deos from his nap in the cart. They continued. Deos quickly defeated a night black dragon with a flashbang grenade. They continued. The horses pulled the cart at great speed, Zeke grabbing the edge as they launched off a cliff toward a sea dragon flying over the ocean. Every day more weapons rained down. The orange sun settled toward the horizon. People sat happily eating noodles prepared at Zeke's shop. Right in front of him at the counter, Deos and Alex eating just as enthusiastically, slurping loudly. A satisfied smile stretched across Zeke's face watching them. Then a piece of paper dropped into Deos's plate. He glanced at it. Shar Fortress. Signature, the Golden Dragon. Deos, noodles halfway to his mouth, sharply raised his hand. Index finger extended. "We need to move out urgently." The cart approached a bone dragon hovering above the city. Deos lounged with his hands behind his head, eyes closed. In front of him stood Zeke, armed with a broom, eyes sparkling with focused anger. Deos opened his eyes. They flashed red. Zeke jumped from the cart toward the sea dragon, mouth open, growling. He always did this when Deos told him it was time. Same with the black night dragon whose parasite had settled in its mouth. Zeke covered himself with his shield, heading straight toward the fire-breathing creature. Eyes burning, running at full speed. He shouted his attack name at the top of his lungs. The Dispeller of the Demon King. He struck the multicolored dragon. The creature howled in pain. Their hotel was sprinkled with another pile of weapons. He dealt a crushing blow to the blue sea dragon too. Another pile in front of the house next morning. He defeated the parasite-mouthed dragon with a wide grin on his face. Covered himself joyfully with the shield as weapons rained down from the sky around him. He took a few steps forward, trails of blue blood left behind him. Covered in blood. Burning eyes. Broken broom in hand. A defeated dragon lying behind him. Then voices from the side. People leaning from windows and balconies. Cheering. Waving. Shouting praise. Dragon hunter. Sent by the gods, defender of the Doria fortress. Screaming how cool he was. Begging him to look their way. Deos appeared in front of the confidently walking Zeke. Called out to him. Offered his palm. Zeke, with a wide smile, struck it loudly as he passed. Deos said, "The fake hero did a great job." Zeke laughed and thanked him loudly. And just like that, the Zeke squad became the most famous team in these lands. Sometime later, 3 young men stood in their village, looking ahead with satisfied expressions. "Is the work really finished?" Deos asked. Alex quietly confirmed. Before them, a 2-story shop. The road leading to it decorated with lanterns and flags. A large sign at the top. The first of the Devil's Gun stores. The shop was finally open. Various types of daggers hung on red and white walls. Shelves lined with every type of weapon imaginable. Zeke stood with arms outstretched, looking around the tall golden-surfaced room with pure joy. Told Sir Deos this was simply incredible. While Zeke fluttered happily around the room, Alex raised his index finger with a smile. Agreed with whatever Deos said. adding their store should be unrivaled even among shops in large cities. Deos looked sideways with a malicious glint. From now on, Alex and Zeke will be in charge of this store. Alex and Zeke froze, turned their surprised gazes toward him simultaneously. Zeke asked, "What does this gentleman mean?" Deos serenely put his hands behind his head. Alex and Zeke lined up around him, satisfied expressions slowly forming on their faces. Whether they liked it or not, this was apparently the plan all along. The Demon King, retired, weaponless, hands behind his head, running the most famous dragon hunting arms business in the land. From behind the counter he didn't actually stand at, absolutely living his best life. Deos asked, "Have they ever seen shop owners actually working in their own stores?" Alex asked irritably if Deos thought it would be too much trouble for him. Deos agreed slowly and deliberately. Two demonic hands reached out, clasping both young men by the shoulders. Deos pulled them in and pressed them against him. Said simply he just wanted to be rich, not a store owner. Added, if they weren't satisfied with this arrangement, they could always discuss their wishes regarding store management. Alex and Zeke, faces already red from the pressure, replied that they understood everything completely. Deos released them, eyes sparkling with satisfaction, index finger raised, enthusiastically noted, since that was settled. Time for the guys to work hard and make this store truly great. The two young people, still recovering from the near strangulation, muttered quietly that they understood the boss's order. Then Deos turned when someone called him. Zeke stood in front of him, scratching the back of his head in confusion. He asked, could he sell noodles after his shift at the store? He still needed to earn money for his junior's education. Deos folded his hands under his chest, said he didn't care. Zeke could do whatever he wanted. The guy thanked him happily. Deos glanced behind him and called Alex. The man startled and asked what it was. Standing half-turned, Deos told Alex to bring what they had discussed. The orange-red sun set behind the walls of the gun shop. Zeke smiled happily standing between the two men. On the floor before them, a large blue scaly shield decorated with gold. Red eyes at the bottom. Zeke noted that the shield looked incredible. Deos bent down and picked it up, raised it and told Alex to read what he had written. Alex said, the shield is called Doom Ligura, created from scales obtained as rewards during dragon hunts, combined with blue and black stones as well as chaos scales. An SS rank shield, forged by the best blacksmith of the underworld, Hermes. This shield can withstand 3 or 4 direct attacks from the Demon King himself. Deos held the shield with fake surprise on his face. Zeke spread his arms wide with enthusiasm, happily said the skill of the dwarves was truly incredible, that the fruits of their labor could withstand even the Demon King. By underworld, Alex meant the demon world. Zeke took it completely literally. Deos abruptly handed the shield to the surprised boy, said he wanted Zeke to try it on. Zeke screamed slightly as purple magic began sparkling before his eyes. A moment later he found himself in complete darkness, hanging in weightlessness, looking around in fear, trying to figure out where he was. He called loudly for Alex and Deos. Then his eyes widened slowly. He turned his head. In front of him, a massive red eye, 20 times larger than himself. The eye said, "My name is Fatal Moon." From now on, the boy would be its master, until the flame of life extinguished. Zeke stared at it with his mouth completely open, asked, what does it mean to be a master? A blinding flash erupted in front of him. Zeke shouted, covering himself with his hands. He looked around in surprise, returning to reality. Asked, where did Mr. Doom Lagoon go? Then froze and turned his head toward Deos when he was told. Raised the shield. He waved his hand instinctively and fired a magical attack toward the boss. He caught the blow with his shield, but the impact still pushed him backward. Zeke flew backward through the walls of the newly built shop, crashed into the street with a loud scream. Alex approached the hole in the wall, waving his hands in displeasure. Said no normal owner would destroy his own store on opening day. Deos put his hands in his pockets and replied, it was just a small test. Then noticed the boy lying in the rubble raising his hand. Zeke climbed out from under the debris and sat on top of the pile, smiling. Shield in hand. Said happily the shield was really something else. Added A rank and G rank heroes would absolutely love to get their hands on something like this. Deos and Alex looked at the completely intact boy with surprised eyes. Deos noted that attack was only 1/100th of his full power. And yet Zeke blocked the spear of doom with such ease. He glanced at Zeke and called him something very specific. The boy's face turned completely red, eyes and mouth wide open in surprise. Deo said, "This shield is now his." He glanced at the boy, corners of his lips curving up. Said, since Zeke was so weak, he would just have to keep supplying him with equipment. Starting with this. One more thing at a time. Zeke asked, was he serious about all this? Alex and Deo's froze in surprise. Drops of tears began falling onto the shield. Zeke held it tightly in both hands. Lowered his red face. Tracks running down it. He asked quietly, was Sir Deo's really sure he wanted to give an F-rank hero such an incredible shield? Seeing the boy's reaction, Deo's froze. Answered briefly, everything was correct. The boy's tears continued falling onto the magic shield. Then he grabbed Deo's tightly and pulled him close. Continued crying loudly, clutching the gift against himself. Said he could not have imagined he would ever hold something like this. Said in a sweet voice, this was the best shield in the world. Deos shook his head and called the boy a fool. Said he had no reason to cry, he didn't even hurt him with that last attack. Somewhere far away, in a large ruined hall, people drinking and having fun. Laughing loudly. Kingdom of Verd. Oma Castle. A man extended a hand decorated with many rings. Noted they are very heavy. Looked at the decorations with predatory eyes. Said this time the catch was just right. A gray-haired man with a thick beard and expensive clothes admired the jewelry. Eyes burning with greed. In a rough voice he noted the king didn't need so much gold anyway. Couldn't take it to his grave. Called the deceased king a shameless old man. Then threw his arm over the shoulders of Princess April, whose face showed absolutely no emotion. Cheerfully asked if she agreed. Sat on the royal throne and laughed, holding the girl on his knee by the neck. The rest of the hall drank and celebrated around them. Then a wooden mug hit the floor. A man appeared in the hall, wearing a cape. Peeked around the corner looking around. Walked a little further, examining the floor. Completely ignoring the surprised looks of everyone around him. He moved toward the stairs. Wandered back and forth through the hall, stopping at each spot for a few seconds. Humming thoughtfully. Everyone in the hall watched him silently, saying nothing, as he declared there was nothing here either. He stepped onto the red carpet in the center. People froze watching him with blank expressions. He walked forward along it without paying attention to anyone. Crouched down and touched the floor with an ornate hand. Said thoughtfully, from the fortress gates to here, not a single trace of battle. The man reclining on the throne shouted indignantly, demanding to know who this person was. The man with chin-length emerald hair and a scar on his face smiled widely. Said people can ignore him and continue doing whatever they were doing before. He stepped forward, pushed off the floor, rose into the air, and moved forward rapidly. Said aloud he needed to jump here. Landed directly at the feet of the shocked man on the throne. Said, let's look here. Touched the broken floor with his hand. His green eyes opened wide, sensing the energy. Said he had finally found it. Everything from just one explosion. He stood and straightened, not paying attention to the surprised faces around him. Said this was a very interesting turn. He noted the blow hadn't just destroyed the palace walls. It had taken out several mountains behind them as well. All of that from a single strike. His dissatisfied eyes lit with a green flame. He asked, could one person really do this? The gray-haired man, mouth hanging open, sputtering, demanded the emerald-haired man leave immediately. The rest of the guests grabbed their weapons and loudly agreed. The emerald-haired man turned sharply, anxiously put his hand forward. Told everyone, do not move. It was dangerous. Said, even though they were pathetic cockroaches who had taken over this place, their lives still had value. The armored men in the room shot up from their seats at that. Shouted that this man should die for such words. The emerald-haired man exhaled displeasedly. Began moving his fingers rapidly. Suggested they really should not quarrel. They were all God's creatures. Suddenly, long luminous threads appeared throughout the hall. People who caught their feet or hands on them began losing limbs. The emerald-haired man stood with his arm extended, looking at the crowd now lying around screaming in pain. Said, those who don't want the same treatment should not move. The man on the throne jumped up indignantly demanding to know who he was. The man with dark brown hair smiled widely, pointed upward with his index finger. Said, some figures from above had taken an interest in the events here. As if something very bad had happened. He had been sent to investigate. He hoped for cooperation. The man on the throne stared at the finger pointing upward. Did he mean heaven? The emerald-haired man closed his eyes and smiled contentedly. Confirmed. Said, representatives of the Lord had taken an interest. Specifically, the saints. The old man's eyes went wide with shock. Drool forming at the corner of his mouth. He asked in fear, was this man really sent by the saints? The young man leaned forward, burning eyes fixed on the frightened man. Predatory smile fully deployed. Said, the man had already figured it out himself. No need to explain. Better to go straight to the story. Tell him what happened that day. Who was it? What did they do? What was the reason? He leaned lower and lower, the man pressing further back into his throne. Said this didn't fit into his head at all. In his memory, this was the cleanest disappearance without a single trace after destroying a fortress in the blink of an eye. The man rolled uncomfortably and said he didn't know much. Only that the city's merchants called the man white-haired. The emerald-haired man froze in sudden realization. Asked again. The old man furrowed his eyebrows, a drop of sweat running down his forehead. Said, some unknown white-haired man came into the fortress in the morning. Shortly after, people heard loud screams, and then the fortress simply exploded. The emerald-haired man's face frowned with displeasure. The gray-haired man raised his confused gaze again. Said loudly he didn't know anything else. Everyone in the fortress died. Only God knows what really happened there. The emerald-haired man said nothing, but the corners of his lips crawled upward. He turned his back to the throne and walked down the stairs. Thanked the man for his answers. Said goodbye. Then stopped. Froze in place. The man on the throne was shouting after him, declaring that the white-haired man had become their savior. That the tyranny of King Verd had been simply unbearable. That the palace wasn't the greatest castle. It was built on the bones and blood of the people. That God had sent a white-haired savior to overthrow the evil king and return the fortress to the people. He shouted that the white-haired man was the real Messiah, far more inclined toward the people than the saints, who pretending to be gods lived in luxury. The young man with emerald hair turned his head, flashed a deeply dissatisfied look, said irritably that was a pretty good speech, added, it would be the saints who would determine whether that person's origin was evil or divine. He waved his ringed hand and began moving his fingers. Started to say, also, then turned away and snapped his fingers. The man's head, along with the top of the throne, flew to the side. Said, people who say such things about saints do not deserve to live. Back to Deos. He kicked the eye of the creature parasitizing the dragon's head with his foot. Said indignantly, even this dragon had that stupid bacteria. Alex corrected him, it was not a bacterium. It was a parasite. The two stood near the head of the defeated dragon lying on the ground. Deos said, to him they were all the same. Either way they needed to call the golden dragon to handle the rest. Alex quietly agreed. The two men walked through green grass. Deos threw his hands behind his head. Said, at first he was glad they had so much work. Then asked, was this going to be a serious problem for the dragons? Asked, shouldn't the golden dragon as goddess of all dragons be handling this herself? Alex directed his calm gaze toward him. Replied, perhaps it had something to do with the human body she was using to exist in this world. Deos asked, does that really matter? Alex said he wasn't sure, but it seemed information about this was stored in the interdimensional library. Deos continued walking, hands behind his head, throwing a surprised look at Alex. Asked why would that information be in the library? Alex explained, the interdimensional library was one of the most important aspects of the Divine Court. It stores evidence of everything. While memories and facts can be distorted through hallucinations caused by magic, the history stored in the library is the only indisputable evidence of anything. The facts reflected there cannot be altered. Deos turned away and yawned. Asked, so the Golden Dragon doesn't want to take part in these events out of fear of leaving a trace of herself in the interdimensional library. Her presence here, in other words, is a secret she doesn't want revealed. Alex replied calmly, it seemed that was actually the case. They both approached the cart left at the edge of the forest. Deos asked, why was she hiding her presence here? Alex replied he had no idea. Someone as humble as himself couldn't possibly understand the thoughts and reasons of a dragon deity. Deos grinned. Said it looked like adult things that children weren't usually told about. He let out a quiet chuckle. As he and Alex approached the cart, they saw Zeke, sitting on the ground, head hanging, back leaning against the cart. Deos asked, had the guy really fallen asleep? He glanced at Alex in surprise when he heard his response. Alex noted, the boy must be exhausted. They watched as Zeke, stained with blue blood, snored peacefully with a smile on his face. Alex said it may not be obvious from looking at him, but he just stood up to a dragon that would give even a G-rank hero serious trouble. Perhaps only Zeke could do something like that because he's used to holding on and pushing through hardship. Then Deos noticed something. His face twisted in surprise and he chuckled loudly. A demonic shield, wrapped carefully in cloth, was standing on the ground right next to the sleeping boy. He chuckled and asked, why was he carrying his shield like that? Alex laughed and said, Zeke said this shield was very important to him. He planned to pass it on to his younger brother when the time came. When the brother grew up to become a hero, Deos stretched and laughed loudly, told Alex to pass along a message. Tell this fool to just use the shield freely. He could always make another one for the younger brother later. Alex grinned and said he would convey the words. Deos turned and walked away, hands behind his head. Said loudly, time to move out. Alex should throw the boy into the cart, but gently, without waking him. Alex quietly replied that he understood. Two men sat on the cart as coachmen, moving slowly across the clearing under the night sky. Alex glanced at Deos in surprise when he heard the question. Deos asked, how are things going with Zeke? Is anything falling off? He clarified he meant the reattached limbs. Alex turned and looked at the boy sleeping soundly in the cart. Said everything seemed fine. Zeke lay surrounded by his broken broom and pan, hugging them tightly, shield pressed against himself. Deos said he thought the doctors of the underworld would do an average job, but it seems to have turned out quite well. Alex replied, to properly reattach a limb you need to know how it was cut off correctly. And he was more than certain they had enough practice on human bodies. The wind blew through Deos's hair. He smiled contentedly. Said anyway, didn't Alex think Zeke would make a great hero if he were D-class? Added, the boy has a strong sense of responsibility. He thinks the boy did well. Deos gave Alex a surprised look when he heard a loud laugh in response. Alex asked him not to jinx the boy with such talk. Still laughing, he looked at Deos and said in 20 years he and Zeke could become enemies. Deos asked why would they become enemies? Alex jumped up indignantly and attacked the question immediately. Shouted because Deos was destined to be the Demon King. Deos smiled happily, pointed his index finger at his own cheek. Said in a good-natured voice that couldn't happen. He was just a noble companion of the hero, not some kind of Demon King. Alex was loudly indignant, calling that complete nonsense, while Zeke continued to snore loudly in the back. Deos looked at Alex with a smile, joyfully asked, in his opinion, could the boy cope with the role of the last hero? Deos froze when he heard the answer, eyes widening in genuine surprise.
Alex replie d'impossible.
The boy was not from the Zero generation. Deos asked what did Generation Zero mean exactly. Alex's red eyes narrowed. He explained, according to the rules of this world, the last hero is born in the 5th generation. People generally have children around the age of 20. Their children 20 years later have children of their own, and so on. By the time the 5th generation reaches its 20th birthday, exactly 100 years have passed. Alex said that is the same year the Demon King's invasion occurs. The generation of heroes that faces the demons in that year, that is the beginning of a new cycle. The Zero generation. Alex looked ahead at the road with a calm expression. In the Zero generation only one last hero is born. Zeke, as a native of the 4th generation, could not become the last hero. Only his descendants could. Alex glanced in surprise at Deos when he heard a loud laugh. Deos looked at him with a contented smile. Quietly repeated, every 100 years when the Demon King invades, the last hero is born. He asked rhetorically, is this the rule of this world? Quietly noted, this whole game looked like some kind of bad joke. His lips stretched into a grin. He laughed quietly, catching Alex's thoughtful gaze. The man's red eyes narrowed with displeasure. He asked in a low voice, maybe the gentleman would finally let him in on his plans. Why did Deos abdicate the throne of the Demon King? The white-haired guy threw his hand over his knee, turned to the side with a distant expression. Asked in surprise, hadn't he told him about this before? Alex looked at Deos with a loud and disorderly expression. Replied loudly, he had heard absolutely nothing about it. Deos rubbed his chin thoughtfully, looked up at the sky, began thinking out loud about why he hadn't said anything. Alex protested loudly he had no idea. Deos replied quietly, there was nothing special about his decision. Cast his thoughtful glance to the side, opened his mouth slightly, began to say the whole reason he abdicated was that. Then, a loud explosion in the sky. He raised his head. A burning airship, falling toward the ground, trailing fire behind it. Deos looked at the falling object. Asked, was that an airship by any chance? Said, it looked like it must be somewhat important. They saw a red fire-breathing dragon hovering around the airship, spraying flames from its mouth. Alex noted another dragon. Deos was indignant, saying there were really so many dragons in this world, they were encountered at every step. Alex spoke quietly, asking how this was possible. His eyes widened in shock as he peered at the flying ship, fearfully asking was this what he was thinking, drawing a surprised look from Deos. The man spotted a slowly burning white flag, carrying a huge coat of arms. Alex shouted, this was holy spruce. That meant pure bloods were aboard. Deos looked up, eyes lighting up with delight. Joyfully asked, were these really pure bloods? Alex confirmed with a short yes. He looked at the sky with a worried expression. Said, this was the family that had produced more than 100 recent heroes. Their blood was the purest, even among other pure blood families. He said irritably. He didn't understand why two sides that had fought together for centuries were now fighting each other. What was happening in modern times was completely beyond comprehension. Deos called Alex loudly, pulling him from his thoughts, as the flying ship flashed with a bright burst and disappeared behind the mountain. Deos turned to Alex with a joyful smile, said enthusiastically they urgently needed to go there and watch the show. A crowd of people who had escaped the burning ship were descending the mountainside, dragging behind them on a large cart a massive load wrapped in white cloth and tied with rope. A man shouted loudly at the knights, hurry up, but make sure nothing gets burned. The knights screamed indignantly about the weight. Several men cried out as the cable in their hands suddenly snapped. A cartwheel came off the rock. A short man stood on a stone ledge, sword in hand, looking down at the knight who had fallen next to the broken wheel. He shouted indignantly, he had just asked them to be careful. The knight whimpered and apologized loudly. The short, plump man with a monocle clenched his jaw, deeply displeased by the mediocrity surrounding him. He watched as the knights encouraged each other and pulled the cart. He thought, did they even understand how much this cargo was worth? If there was even the slightest scratch, all their heads would fly off one after another. He narrowed his eyes and turned when he heard a loud roar. Raised his head. The dragon was rapidly approaching. He muttered in a frightened voice, they were all in trouble. The dragon opened its mouth wide, preparing a fiery attack, roaring deafeningly. The man shouted loudly, the dragon was coming. His face twisted with displeasure. He pointed at his subordinates, shouted the dragon was aiming for the cargo. All magicians and archers prepare to attack. Armored men raised their bows, arrows drawn to strings. Men in long white robes put their hands forward, opening scrolls with glowing hieroglyphs, reading spells. The man with glowing eyes waved his palm, folding his fingers into a magical gesture. Casting. The dragon growled loudly, concentrating flames in its mouth, preparing to strike. The man sputtered and shouted, attack. Archers released arrows flying. Magical energy poured from the glowing scrolls. Magic surged from the folded hands. All three types of attacks rushed simultaneously at the dragon. The dragon spat a stream of flames back. A column of fire hit the crowd. People were thrown backward, flying up screaming. The fat man crashed to the ground, crying out in pain. He raised himself on his elbows, looked up at the dragon circling overhead, still spitting flame. He swore loudly, stood up, walked toward the load, screamed, was the cargo intact? Light hieroglyphs flashed around the huge bundle, a magical barrier holding. Knights spun around it, recovering from the attack. They shouted back, the cargo was fine. Screams of pain from everywhere else. The man cried out in relief that the goods had survived, clenched his teeth, raised his head again with an angry expression. The dragon had flown some distance, then turned sharply, gathering fire in its mouth for a new attack. The man shouted it was coming back, face dripping with sweat, mouth wide open. He shouted this dragon was still young. They should finally deal with it properly. He ordered another attack. Subordinates loudly confirmed. Knights drew their bows again. Magicians raised their scrolls. The dragon approached with a loud roar, fiery mouth open wide, fierce expression locked on the cargo. And somewhere, not far away, Deos was watching all of this with his hands in his pockets, looking very interested indeed. The man shouted, this attack should be the last for the dragon. Loud footsteps from behind. A voice made him turn around in surprise. Step aside. The man jumped. Someone pushed off using the round hat on his head as a springboard. Launching upward. The man cried out in displeasure and looked up. Adjusting his hat in shock. Said in surprise, "Is it really, sir?" A blonde-haired young man with flashing blue eyes waved his hand. Activating his magic. Said quietly, "Cut." He was already above the dragon. He swung his sword. A stream of green energy erupting from it. A powerful slash tearing through the creature. His spell, cutting the camellia branches, hit with full force. The fat man's eyes and mouth went wide. He shouted enthusiastically. He was incredibly happy to see Cerverius. The blonde landed on the ground. Watching the dragon he had defeated fall lifelessly. He stuck his sword into the ground and folded his hands on top of it. Said indifferently, with its behavior the dragon was begging for death. Only escaping after the first attack would have saved it. This stupid creature decided otherwise. Varius waved his hand and tossed the sword to the fat man. The man caught it, smiled joyfully, said Cerverius shouldn't have bothered. But cutting a dragon in half, even a young one, with a single blow was worthy of great admiration. The blonde replied indifferently, "A dragon is a dragon. Young or not," ordered the man to take care of his sword. The man happily replied he understood and would do his best. Then opened his mouth in surprise, holding the bloody sword, as Varius pointed him in a direction. Varius ordered, "Restore order here and send someone for help." He turned to the man and looked at him with burning angry eyes, lowered his voice, said, "If anyone suddenly found out what they were carrying, his father would blow his head off his shoulders in the blink of an eye." Varius turned and walked forward. The man behind him lit up nervously, said with a laughing voice, "Understood." Cerverius could go and rest in peace. The blonde stopped abruptly. A rude voice from behind. "Is this the cargo you mean?" Deos and Alex, standing on top of the huge bundle in the cart, peering from nowhere, surprising everyone. The fat man looked up, holding the sword, shouted indignantly asking who they were. Deos swung his leg, cutting the ropes, tearing the white fabric. Under the cloth, part of the muzzle of a red dragon, growling loudly at the sight of him. Deos said, they had been talking about something earlier but it turned out to just be another dragon. His eyes widened in surprise. The roaring dragon looked at him with ordinary eyes, vertical pupils. Normal eyes. Deos said, "This dragon looks completely normal. Not infected with any parasites." He looked at the raging creature with surprised eyes. Said he understood why the dragon was pursuing these people. It wanted to save its mother. Alex quietly replied, he believed that was actually the case. Deos raised his glowing red eyes to the people around them, smiled, grinned, asked hadn't they established a truce with dragons. Noted the blonde was part of a heroic family. But this already smelled like some kind of conspiracy. Varius flashed his blue eyes with a deeply dissatisfied expression. Ignored the question entirely. Noted it looked like he would have to take care of a couple more bodies. Alex leaned toward Deos's ear and covered his mouth. Quietly asked, why was he provoking this man? Deos smiled widely. Asked, wasn't Alex interested in seeing what abilities purebloods actually had? Varius turned and walked away, surprising the two young men. He ordered the fat man to deal with these two immediately. The man perked up, loudly replied he would handle everything. Gripped Varius's sword tightly, turned around, opened his mouth with an angry expression. Said indignantly, he didn't know who they were but they saw something they shouldn't have. Ordered his knights to capture them. The knights responded loudly, holding swords and shields, began approaching the cargo. Deos stared after the pure blood walking away. Asked, did he really just leave? His face turned red. He pouted with great disappointment. Said, he thought since this man was pure blood something interesting would happen. But in reality boring. He offhandedly told Alex to kill everyone here. Alex turned with a surprised and offended look. Objected, they were supposed to be playing the role of heroes' companions. Deos asked, then what did Alex propose to do with all this? Alex asked, didn't fighting a pure blood family go against Deos's original plan? Deos looked back at him. Said, now that Alex mentioned it, he was starting to doubt it. Said, in essence that blonde guy was just as blessed as Zeke. Both young men stood looking down at the knights trying to approach. Alex noted that was a good point. Added, hero families always had the prefix saint in front of the tree name in their family names. To show they were blessed. Deos asked, why did they all use tree names? They continued talking to each other, completely ignoring the loud curses of the fat man below. Alex explained, People take the name of trees that grow on their territory. Deos jokingly replied. He wouldn't be surprised if they also had a general tree planting day. The fat man shouted indignantly at his knights. Capture and kill these people immediately. They still had the impudence to mock them. The magicians put their scrolls forward and began reading spells. The archers grabbed their weapons and drew back the strings. They launched a simultaneous attack. The two young men standing on the dragon's body appeared instantly behind the backs of the magicians and knights, causing immediate shock. Deos looked at his companion and said, since they'd already been attacked, they needed to sort this out quickly, otherwise these people would wake up Zeke. The magicians and knights scattered to the sides. The fat man exclaimed in surprise when he saw the two young men, screamed indignantly asking how they got there. Alex noted with concern, it wouldn't be difficult to kill them all. Asked, was that really necessary? Deos was loudly indignant, saying Alex was asking too many unnecessary questions. Alex asked, hadn't he said before they were just playing the hero's companions? Deos's face flushed with displeasure. Said irritably, in that case let the man run and fall on his knees asking for mercy so they could leave calmly. Alex pointed at the dragon. Said it was too late for that. They had seen the big secret. Deos got angry, loudly indignant. Asked what did Alex want to hear from him then? Alex asked, could they just run away? Deos asked, was he scared? Alex grinned and said he wasn't afraid of anything. Deos laughed loudly and called him a coward. The fat man had been boiling over this entire time, steam literally emanating from his red, displeased face. He muttered, these two had started some kind of farce here. Screamed loudly, kill them now. The magicians and knights responded with loud agreement and rushed forward. One magician waved his hand preparing to attack Alex. Alex glanced at him irritably. Said, until the very end he did not want to get involved with a hero's family. Added, in this situation there was nothing to be done about it. He flashed his eyes, puffed his cheek with a loud unpleasant sound. A stream of magic burst from his mouth, aimed at the magician, burning his face alive. The magician screamed. Behind them, the horses tied to the cart browsed the grass peacefully, while a violent clash erupted over the mountains. Zeke, smiling, snored loudly in the back, shield in arms. The knights charged with loud battle cries, weapons swinging at Alex and Deos. A magician pushed off the ground, jumped into the air, raised his palm accumulating magic, shouted the flaming hand spell. Alex cast a stern look at him, spat another blast of energy, making the man scream loudly. The two young men turned to see a knight swinging directly at them. Alex's red eyes flashed. He darted to the side, rushed past the knight, taking the man's head clean off his shoulders, splitting his axe in half simultaneously. The other knights froze in fear watching. Alex rushed through the crowd at lightning speed, his demonic hand cutting through bodies. Severed limbs scattered in every direction. An archer aimed at Alex's back. Released, the arrow glowing yellow rushing forward at lightning speed. He shouted the mighty shot spell alongside the release. Alex extended his blood-stained hand forward, folded his fingers into a click. The wounded knight fell to the ground with a loud cry a moment later. Another wizard appeared next to Alex immediately, waving his hands. Released energy from both hands, the lightning bolt spell, summoning a portal. Alex formed a square with his index fingers and thumbs. A purple circle appeared between them. He created two portals. One received the magician's attack. The other directed it straight back at the magician. The man was struck by his own electric shock, screaming loudly. Alex watched silently as the magician fell, convulsing in death throes. He extended his blood-stained hand to his mouth and licked off the red drops. His eyes sparkled. He chuckled quietly. Deos, standing behind him at that moment, yawned lazily, watching everything with burning eyes. Alex, covered in blood, turned back to look at the fight with slightly startled eyes. Started stuttering. Loudly asked, who are these people? The blonde pushed his foot against the fat man's head again. He screamed in pain. Varius appeared directly above Alex and Deos, swinging his sword, beginning to cast the concussion spell. He lunged forward sharply. His sword released many magical cuts across the ground. The camellia branches spell shook everything on impact. The ground began splitting. Huge boulders flew in every direction. Varius landed feet first on the ground, began inspecting the area, now filled with a massive cloud of dust. Then a voice from behind him. He turned around, irritated expression fully visible. Deos noted loudly, the guy had made a huge mess here. Various turned. Saw two young men standing completely unharmed on a high ledge. He frowned, glanced at them from under his brows, angrily asked who were they, noting how easily they had killed soldiers, and dodged his sword,